But yes, we're gonna go ahead and get started today. The topic that we wanted to talk about today is really a big one amongst coalitions. It's going to be, how do you get youth involved in coalition work? I know that is a little bit broad. What kind of coalition work do you do? What part do you want them to get involved in? We're going to go ahead and kind of open up the communication between all of you. And I want to first kind of talk about, how do you get youth involved in your coalition meetings? So whoever kind of wants to start out that conversation, feel free to unmute yourself if you want to kind of walk through that and kind of explain maybe how you do it, or have questions on how maybe you could do it, if anyone wants to start there. All right, so we have Debbie on the line today. She says they go to the schools and work with the SAD groups. Awesome. So when you go to the schools, Debbie, how did you, I guess, develop that relationship with the schools to easily be able to go in and meet with these groups? When do you meet with these groups? Is it during lunch? Is there a specific period that you're able to go in and just kind of, get the kids together after school? Okay, gotcha. And with that, Debbie, I guess I kind of want to just expand that with you. What is one major thing you do to kind of recruit or draw in the youth? What is a major thing that kind of gets them like, oh, I'm going to go ahead and join the SAD group? Oh, they have right. Oh, that's nice to have a bus for them. That's awesome. Anyone else kind of want to share, how they get their youth involved at coalition meetings? Maybe it's an activity that you do. Maybe it's that you provide them food. In Debbie's case, it was the accessibility to just having it after school for them and giving them that bus ride home later that they're able to kind of provide. No one wants to share? I'm going to start calling on people. All right. Debbie also said meeting with students to teach them how to advocate for things like raise the age to 21 to purchase vape products. And that is a really big thing that I know a lot of you guys are trying to work on, or are working on with the youth, and getting that really stimulated through them. Because as you all know, if the youth go to, a city council, officials, whatever it may be, it might even be the superintendent. If you have the youth actually going to them, it's probably going to get more done if the youth are saying that this needs to change. If it's adults, they are not always as keen to saying yes, but if it's the kids that are actually coming to them and saying, this needs to change, this is why, sometimes it makes the adults a little bit more, persuaded, I guess you'd say, to make that change. Thank you, Debbie, for being so helpful. Nancy, do you help fund? Yeah, okay, so Nancy has a question for you, Debbie. Do you help fund the buses? They were thinking about doing that in their community. So how does that kind of work, Debbie? Oh, Allie said they do fund bus transportation for their youth summit, so they can use funds for that. That's awesome. Debbie said the school provides the late bus for their after school activities in their specific community. So it is a school, just so you know that, Nancy, it's not necessarily the coalition providing that service. Okay, and Allie did say most schools do pay for that transportation, but we do throw the offer out that there is an incentive to participate. That's awesome. So Allie, I kind of wanted to ask you a question. I know you guys do your youth summit. What's the big draw there for the youth? Why do you think they come to your youth summit? I know I'm putting you on the spot. Honestly, because they get out of class. I love your honesty. I do think that's a big draw for a lot of things where they can get out of class, and especially when they're spending it with friends, it's like, why not? That's amazing though. But I mean, even though that might be their original intent is to just get out of class, I mean, in all reality, it helps you build the relationship with them and get them to hopefully see that, wow, the coalition's doing all this amazing work. This is something I really want to be a part of. And getting out of class and getting to spend time with my friends is just a perk. So that's awesome. Providing the agenda to the school administration helps get it approved as a field trip. Awesome. So that's a key tip if y'all are trying to get it approved at a school, you know, helping provide that information and giving kind of a list more of what is actually going to happen. It helps it get approved as a field trip as opposed to you trying to pull kids out of class during the school or having to have it on like a Saturday or something because you can't have it during the school day. Oh, Virgil says that their youth summit lasts for 3 days and we just had, a youth rally. So Virgil, kind of expand on the youth rally a little bit. I want to know a little bit more about that. How does that differ from a youth summit? I kind of want to know the difference there. Excuse me. Okay, so Virgil said a youth rally was led by the youth and the summit was led by, okay. That's very interesting, and I feel like a lot of times we forget that a youth-led event can sometimes be way more inclusive and the students actually get more out of it or like it a little bit more than actually something where it's like planned. And we all know we have to have those planned events like a youth summit that is led by a specific, you know, organization where we actually are getting something out of it and it's a learning experience. But the youth rally is a very interesting take to get people, in a sense, rallied together around something that the youth themselves are leading. And I think that in return gets more youth interested in it. If there's a adult that walks into the school and says, oh, hey, you know, we're working on substance use prevention among youth, come join our club, the youth are usually really hesitant. They're like, well, that's not cool. That doesn't even sound fun. Whereas if an actual youth comes into the school and says, hey, we're having this really cool rally to talk about, you know, youth substance use prevention, you should totally come. It's super fun. The kids are going to be way more excited and more probably able or wanting to do this activity as opposed to, like I said, if an adult were to come in and say that. So that's kind of a unique way, Virgil, to have like more of a youth rally. And even if it's accompanied with the youth summit, that's a great kind of balance of bringing both those together. All right, so I kind of want to talk about the recruitment aspect because I know that a lot of first-time coalitions, or even if you've been around for a while, you might kind of get into these lulls where you start to struggle with recruiting youth and getting them to actually buy in and help with an event or an activity or even just to be there at a meeting. We know all the youth nowadays are super busy, so getting them to commit to anything is really hard. So is there anything that any of you guys do that you know is very effective in getting the youth there or recruiting them for the coalition? Because we know you have to have that youth sector usually filled out for your grant application and whatnot. So what is one thing that you really use to get at least that one major youth member involved? All right. So we had, sorry about that, guys. I did not realize I was on mute. So Virgil kind of talked about having the youth have a seat at the table during the decision process. This is really an important step. It is awesome because if you guys are ultimately making decisions that are going to affect the youth, getting them to see that will make them more apt to want to be at that table, to want to be involved and have that representation when they're making decisions. So that is a good point. Virgil also said that the youth are recruited by the principals, which is a very interesting take. And a lot of people might not tend to think of this because those principals know those kids. They're there in the schools with them every day. They know the kids who will, A, thrive in being part of the coalition, and B, really take ownership of it and want to be there and want to be part of the coalition. So I think that's a really good idea, especially for coalitions who are new and are trying to recruit members or get to that level where they have a lot of youth involvement. I think going to the principals or maybe even some of the teachers who see these kids and saying, you know, maybe you should put this in their ear, but who can we try and recruit that you think would be a good member or a good fit? Debbie has said that we recruit from the middle school to keep this SAD group growing as you age out. This is a awesome technique, Debbie, mainly because a lot of coalitions, when they first get funded and try to start their coalition, they tend to target high schoolers. And whether that's, you know, freshmen, sophomore, junior, seniors, they try to start their youth basically from the high school level. And that's not always as able for growth as you know, because they're going to eventually graduate. And a lot of times high schoolers really don't want to be involved, or they're a bit more hesitant. Whereas the middle school students really like to get involved. They like to do things, you know, they're all about hanging out with their friends. And if that means they get to join this cool after school group just to hang out with their friends, they're more apt to do that. And then before you know it, those high schooler or those middle school students become high school students. And before you know it, you have, you know, 6 age groups of kids in your group. Like Debbie said, as you just keep recruiting every year, whether it's 6th or 7th grade students, before you know it, those kids get older and you have a full-on, you know, youth coalition that just continues to grow each year, which is awesome. Debbie also said that each year they create an action plan with the youth that includes all the campaigns, and they also discuss the community events that can be added, you know, around those. And Debbie, I literally like this example as well for kind of recruiting and what they do to get those students to the kind of buy into the coalition, because students want to feel validated and feel like they're important and they have a say in what's going on. And as much as they love those fun activities that you do, they also want to know that they're making a difference, right? And having them help with that action plan really brings them into the fold to see, hey, you guys are making this action plan, now you have to carry it out. So it makes them kind of have a sense of ownership more over what they're doing and what they can accomplish. And ultimately, you want that to push them to want to do more. So they might work with, you know, the youth group on certain things within the action plan, but then they might also come to you as, you know, a coalition director or coordinator and say, hey, you know, I've been doing this with the youth group, but I also want to know, you know, what other big things is the coalition itself just even working on that I can get involved in? Because ultimately that's what we want. We want our youth to kind of grow and grow with the coalition and develop that want to achieve more, right? All right. So, sorry, I just kind of skipped through some. So Deb also had one more thing. She said, our school offers community service hours and they get credit for time they work with the coalition. That's another big thing, because so many times nowadays now for, I know, National Honor Society or other, you know, organizations within the school, they recommend that students, or not even recommend, they usually require that students have volunteer hours to complete a certain, you know, certification or membership and whatnot. The fact that you can offer those, Debbie, is amazing, and it's just going to get more people involved. All right. High school youth group. Okay, so Deb also said, or Deb Cheney, sorry. I'm getting my Debbies mixed up. So Deb Cheney is from the Sylvania County Action Team, and their high school group sponsor a junior high fun night a couple of times a year from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. It is a social time with some structure run by our high school kids. I love that this is run by the high school. I think it really shows a leadership in a sense to those junior high kids that these high schoolers are involved in this. You know, these are kids that those junior high kids look up to. I mean, ultimately they want to be those high school students. So I think having that aspect is awesome. They have food, games, music, open basketball courts. We hold it at one of our junior highs. We have had as many as 150 kids to 60 kids. Cost to attend is donated items for the food bank. This is my favorite part too, because the fact that you guys can charge nothing and just kind of make that more of a donation that you guys then give back to the community makes it so much more rewarding for the kids who help put this together, for the community itself. And this is just a really awesome thing you guys have going on. And I'm sure it helps you build your coalition numbers and get those youth there that want to be involved and ultimately, you know, want to help the coalition grow and help the community. All right, and Debbie said yes, and the action team allows students to know what they need to be doing all year and can pre-plan who will do what activities. This, honestly, Debbie, I love this whole action planning thing you do with your kids. I think more coalitions should adopt this because I think it helps them learn a sense of responsibility as well. Kids nowadays, they a lot of times they say they don't have the necessary skills to move into the job world once they graduate. I think having them kind of take on this action planning step as the committee kind of lets them really take ownership. And like you said, they have to pre-plan for things. They have to organize things in a sense. You're there as kind of Overwatch, I feel like, to help and make sure that they do things correctly, obviously, and that it's not illegal or anything crazy like that. But you're ultimately giving them control of their own organization, in a sense, of their own group, which makes them be responsible. It makes them kind of learn and take on those responsibilities. That is awesome. I will say, Debbie, you guys have a very robust youth group that is amazing, and a lot of people should use you guys as an example of how to really develop a youth group that gets things done, or at least plans to get things done, right? And yes, like she said, the students come up with great ideas. Honestly, a lot of times you'll be surprised what good ideas the students come up with. I was working with one of our Kentucky coalitions 2 weeks ago, and she was telling me how they've been a coalition, a DFC funded coalition now for 3 years, and this past year they really started getting a lot of buy-in from their youth group. And she was just completely shocked by the meeting they had the other week about planning for next year and kind of the rest of this year, or next school year, sorry, about things they wanted to do. And she was just really blown away by what they came up with, because they were awesome ideas that she's like, I would have never thought of had they not kind of came and talked to me about it, or, you know, even just said, hey, this is something we want to do. So a lot of times just even opening up that communication for them to feel comfortable talking to you about what they want, no matter if they think it's a stupid idea or a good idea, just make sure you have those communication ways open. All right. And so I guess, so about 1:30 now. So I think I kind of want to wrap up today with one more question, and that is, if you guys are working on, we've talked about a lot of like planning and stuff for the youth groups, but we all know that the coalition ultimately tries to implement environmental strategies, correct? And we want to get those overall changes and things in our community kind of improved. So I want to know, I'm going to put this question out to you guys. Do your youth members know the 7 behavior change strategies? And if so, how do you work with them to kind of educate them on it, or show them how this is what we should be doing to get these policies passed, or, you know, procedures in place? And if you don't work with youth, or your youth don't know about the 7 behavior change strategies, just say that you don't really talk with them about that right now. Okay, Deb Cheney said that we offer the opportunity to attend youth-to-youth leadership training. For many of our upcoming high school youth, they bring back ideas that can implement throughout the year and be with many other kids of like minds. That's awesome, Debbie. I hope you guys, I don't know if I can't remember if you guys specifically provide that youth to youth training. Is it something the coalition kind of provides for them? Okay, because the only reason I asked that, Deb, is because if it is something you guys provide to them, and I know, Deb, that you guys are kind of post DFC funding pretty much, but it's very interesting to bring that strategies talk into it to help the youth who are going to eventually age out of the system, who are part of the community, learn what you actually do. You know, a lot of times they just think it's something fun, or hey, let's put on an activity, or hey, let's just try and get this policy passed, but they don't actually know like what the intention is behind things. And sometimes walking through the strategies and kind of going a little bit deeper into what we do. Oh, it's into Columbus, that's right. I know what you're talking about now. But sometimes just those trainings like that for the kids are great because it shows them kind of the background more of what we do. And then we hope that once they move on and graduate and, you know, come back to their community after college, or whether they live in their community through college, we hope that they still continue to be part of the coalition. You know, we don't want them to just be part of the coalition as a student or as a youth member. We want them to still be there as an adult, as someone who lives in the community past graduation, you know, as they start to develop their own families. We want to make sure that they're still there and involved. All right, and Virgil said, our youth leaders know about the 7 strategies, but we are planning on expanding the youth training to the rest of the group. Awesome, Virgil. My biggest thing is the youth they can't know enough. We sometimes think that, oh, hey, you know, we don't need to tell them everything. They're just the kids. They don't need to know, you know, what's going on behind the scenes. I'm more of a open door policy. You know, this is what the coalition's working on. Our youth need to know what we're working on as well, because they need to be educated enough to tell other adults in the communities, like, I am part of the, you know, youth group for said organization in the community who's working on substance abuse prevention. These are some of the big things that we're working on. Whether it's, you know, working on a policy to, up the age of tobacco products to 21, or is it just working on a local school policy to make the school, you know, tobacco free instead of smoke free? Educating the youth on why we do what we do and the strategies behind those is so important, because it just makes them more passionate about that work and helps them see, you know, this is why we're doing it, for our youth, for our community. So Deb said, when the kids do some of the activities such as sticker shock, we share where it fits with the strategies. I actually really like that take. That way you can kind of give them an overview of what each of the strategies are. But if you're more, I think it's more valuable to explain the said strategy when they're actually doing it, like you said, Deb. If you're doing a sticker shock and you're saying, this is this strategy because X, Y, and Z, they're more apt to be like, oh, okay, like this is why we do this. That is awesome. I think that's a great way to kind of pull that information into what you do with the kids. Debbie said, we work with students to help them understand how the 7 strategies create change. Awesome. And why we need to do certain activities, not just one-time events. When they understand the 7 strategies, we get more buy-in. And a lot of times, coalition members or coordinators tend to think that if they try and, you know, put too much training or too much emphasis on, you know, the strategies and the logistics behind things, that it's not going to be fun for the kids and that they're not going to get as much buy-in. But it's reversed. I mean, Debbie says it right there. I mean, getting them to understand the 7 strategies and why we do what we do and everything kind of behind the scenes actually gets them more buy-in. And I think that's true. Ultimately, the kids want to know everything. They want to know what's going on. They want to be informed. The more informed they are, the more they're willing to buy in and do those things for the coalition. So I think that is a great point, Debbie. All right, do any of you guys have any other last kind of minute things you want to talk about or have questions on? Is there any, I have kind of been posing questions to you guys, but if you guys want to pose any questions to each other, feel free to do that now. And we'll kind of end on that note. Okay, I'm not seeing any other questions come in. So I thank you all who did participate today. I think it was very helpful and a great conversation we had. All of you who did participate are literally doing a wonderful job with engaging your youth. It is just amazing to see all the different work you guys are doing. But ultimately, it's to get those youth involved in our communities and get them to become, members of society even, who contribute to their communities, who care about their communities. So thank you all for participating. Like I said, this will be going up on the member portal, I'm pretty sure. If not, you'll have the web link that you'll get a follow-up in an email tomorrow. If you do need any other information on anything, don't forget about our member portal. It is out there. We want you guys to be using it. So make sure you head over there and just even look through it. Every once in a while, we add a couple new things. If we ever do any major adds of information, we will let you know that there is new information on the portal. I know most of you guys are already part of our Facebook group, but if you are not already, please go ahead and join our Facebook or become a member of the client community. And all of you are already part of our emailing list. You guys are good to go there. Our next training is going to be not that. It is going to be on June 12th, and it's a Reach Open Chat. So we haven't had too many people come to these. We really want these to be more of a conversation around Reach specifically. So kind of like what we were doing today, but we want these to be more Reach driven. So if it's that you have a specific question on something you're trying to enter in Reach and you just can't seem to figure out how to record it, feel free to hop on and we can walk through that. That's what the Reach Open Chat is designed around. It's kind of like open office hours, but for Reach specifically. June 26th is our next coalition training series, and this is going to kind of lead us from our conversation today, and that's going to be a topic of how to be an effective coalition member. So we've talked about kind of getting our youth involved, but we're going to take our coalition training in June to that next level of how to actually be an effective member. So if you are struggling with getting your members to, essentially be effective and do what they should be as a member, go ahead and come and listen to that training. It'll be a good topic for you. That is going to be all we have for you guys today. Thank you all for joining us and enjoy the rest of your day.